like to call the Board of Works meeting to order. Phyllis, have a roll call, please.
Craig Koshaw.
Here.
Bill Carva.
Here.
Ken Meyer.
Here. You were emailed a copy of the minutes from our January 2nd meeting. If you have any corrections, please make note now, or if not, look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes from January 2nd. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Kevin, is it you, I think? Recommendation to use Maintenance Connection as the asset management software?
I know it came before with Mike Hendricks from American Structure Point. Been looking in now for a few months, a asset management software for the wastewater. And so Mike helped us out with that. He reviewed a number of different companies and softwares and kind of narrowed down to 4 for us to demo and go over. So he kind of gave us we gave him what we wanted in the software, and he graded 4 of them. And then we picked 2 of those to demo, and then eventually came to this Maintenance Connection. It's not cheap.
No. Carrie, you want to come up too?
But with the the ones he picked, there was one that was probably twice as expensive as this, and one that was not quite half as expensive as this one. And then during the process, actually, the 2 that we narrowed down to, they merged.
Oh, really?
The parent company, I'm not sure which one which, but merged together, so now they're owned by the same company. But this Maintenance Connection had everything that we were looking for as far as capabilities and what we were looking for.
So tell us about it.
Awesome.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's nice. And the main point of this, well, for one, to get SRF funding in the future, you have to have a software that does asset management. You can't do it on paper. It has to be a software that does it. So that's kind of where this started. So we'll be able to plug in eventually the whole system, but start with the plant, and you can tie in maintenance schedules for every pump, valve, piece of equipment in the plant. And so Carrie, we'll go through and basically plug in everything in the software. And so we'll have a day-by-day, month-by-month, quarter, every year when maintenance items should be done.
And this allows you to look at it at the end of a year or 2 and say, oh, you spent a lot of money on this pump, maybe you should consider replacing it. And it's another box to check off when our item inspector comes, because he's been pushing this for quite a few years. So we needed to have something in place.
So you got $24,340 for the upfront cost.
Yes.
To get the software, get it installed, training, whatever, if there is any, and up and going. And then each year it's $13,140 for.
Correct. There's an actual contract out. Yeah, so it'll be $13,000 and some change a year for the license. And what we're thinking too here eventually is water. When we get the new plants up and running, we'll start utilizing the software.
Same software?
Same software. The only thing we'd have to do is add for another user. But so we're thinking me, Don, and Carrie will be the 3 admin users, and then there's 3 users that can be on it in the field or at the plant that can be on it as well. So we'll only need to add Bill and Gene maybe for water. So you're looking at adding another $2,000 a year to do that, but then the costs will be able to split up between water and sewer. And I know Tubby has even made mention that he could utilize this to keep track of the whole fleet. So.
Yeah, well, we Got quite a few vehicles, I
Yeah.
guess, come to think of it. Craig, Bill, some comments?
No, I think the maintenance part of it, I mean, knowing that that you can work on a valve or how much you spend on the valve or whatever, I think that in itself will probably pay for it.
Yeah.
Because you can have some shutdowns or some major repairs that maybe you can get on top of.
Plan
So that
for
you
instead of react to.
exactly. So I think that, yeah, to me, and then utilizing it for other, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, are you saying that there's instruments on the valves that tell you when they're going bad? Or are we just talking about employees reporting
Yeah.
on the software
Yeah,
saying,
if there's a maintenance item or if something gets replaced, you would plug it in the system, and then every time you would go do maintenance on that, you would report it in the software.
okay,
You set it up that it can send you reminders that, it's Monday, the first Monday of every month, you need to go exercise this valve in the plant, so that it gets done, and then you can have it on your cell phone and you can check it off in the field that says, oh yeah, Bob Gavin did that.
okay.
It'll say that it was done and who did it and
Who did it, when
what
they
day
did
they
it.
did it.
Mhm.
So the training for the actual employees is not a big deal, that's a managerial thing that you're going to take care of, Carrie, you,
The
Don?
legwork will be getting
Huh?
it all into the system. That'll take a while.
Because you're
Okay.
going to need serial numbers, you need all the operating manuals, and says, okay, you're supposed to change oil every 2 months on this pump, or this pump you're supposed to change it every 3, and inputting all of that is what's going to be the time-consuming,
Right.
I think, more
Yeah.
technical portion of it.
And you three are the ones that get stuck doing that.
You have to enter all of that yourself?
Oh, mostly Carrie.
Data entry?
I'm hoping to get some other help
Yeah.
within the plant.
Okay.
Is that data entry something that, how soon will we actually have this?
The software, as soon as we say go.
As soon as we say go?
He said it'd be about a month to get the team around to come do the training. So,
See, if it's the right time of year, you could utilize like college kids, whatever, to help you enter data.
for some of it, probably, some of it you're gonna have to know
What you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
for the water plant, that would be wonderful. If stuff's coming in, they give you the owner's manual
Yeah.
with it, and you can just sit there and plug it in
Yeah.
as it comes
As it's
in.
being installed.
Okay. Got the money, Kevin? You got the money?
Yeah. Tim wanted some more language added to the contract that they approve, but it's not on the copy I have, so there's just another sentence or two that will be added. So just need the approval to sign it once that language is added.
Okay. Sound right, Tim?
Yep.
Okay, look for a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to use maintenance connection for the asset management for the wastewater treatment plant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to, well, actually, I guess thank Mike Hendricks for helping us
Well,
out.
yeah, he did a lot of the legwork as far as, so that way our emails and phones wouldn't be bombarded with.
What's he wanting for this?
We already got a contract with him to do all that stuff. He's getting paid out of it.
Yeah. Carrie, what's the latest at the waste treatment plant with the,
The clarifiers?
yeah.
We are all
It's
up
mo-
and
it's-
running.
It's all up and running.
All up and running. So, yeah, everything looks very good. We're going to have a walkthrough with American Structure Point, Kokosing, and the city, the 28th, I believe.
The 20th of January. So Kokosing, are they out of there, or are they still, yeah?
There's still a presence there. They're just slowly moving stuff out, finishing up the, trying to do some pre-spring sod work, if you will.
Yeah. Were you happy with Kokosing?
I was. They've been very upfront. Josh Zimmerman can say more about them. It's been very good.
That's good to hear. So, okay, anything else to report on waste treatment to the Board of Works or anything? I have nothing.
AECom?
Yeah, let's talk about it, but I want to get the council members up here. How you guys coming?
5 minutes, maybe.
Let's save it till they get up here. I'll share with the Board of Works that today I got a piece of mail. Let me find it. I think I put it in here. Certified mail from Silverline, and it's just basically saying that they're closing. That some of the people have already been on the move off, and that they plan to have it done by July, and I think it said that it's 50 people. That's what they have in the letter, so just thought I would share that with you. I asked Phil if it was something we needed to do anything with. I'm really not sure why they sent it to us.
I think you're required by statute to do it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We will be losing revenue from taxes and utility bills.
And there's going to sit some
And
empty
county
buildings.
tax.
Yeah.
And there's some empty buildings. There's I think the one building especially where they actually made the pigment things, that would be a hard building to sell off, I would think.
I think there's interested parties, they just gotta
Are there?
get in touch, yeah. They just gotta get in touch.
Good. That's great to hear. I hadn't heard that.
Silverline hasn't responded to Gold Shield.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. It's great to hear.
Yeah, I think they
Should
want
we
to
make
pick up a
that
lot
a
of
matter of
employees
record or
too.
not?
That's- Hey, with the shortage of employees
Manpower.
right now,
Yeah.
yeah, they're foolish not to jump.
Well, we're
on
gonna
it.
see where they land. I think
Yeah.
that Silverline was a union shop and the other's not, so, I don't know, that's just
Do we need to make this a matter of record that we've received this from Silverline?
Probably should.
a matter of record. So moved, yeah.
Second.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Do you want this? Thank you. Everything else that I want to talk about, I'd like to get the guys up here for, so just kind of sit tight. What is it?
Yes. Isn't that where they roast can?
Yes. Yeah, Scott. Yeah. Austin's dad.
Chris.
Chris. Yeah, not Scott. Chris. Thank you, Philip.
All right.
On the block my house.
Right. The one about your house, right. Want to cruise with you. It'll have fun.
Yeah, he and his wife are a nice couple.
Yep. Yeah, they are.
That old tech down,
Sure.
he's in Maddie, but
There's a chance, I think that he could get moved. I don't know if they would move or not.
We did hire one of the employees,
Yeah.
Dave Wilder.
Oh.
He's working for the water department, or the water or street, I forget. One of those.
Good.
He's working out very well.
Did you get a hold of...
We did?
Okay.
I can report on that. if
Go
you
ahead.
want.
Why don't you go ahead and report on that?
Okay. Was
Carrie, you'll want to hear this. And Don, Jeremy. The three houses that we're going to need to talk with the homeowners. Tim talked to Lytle today, and he's a go. He's good to go. The second home we found out, which is owned by Marshall Zimmerman,
is
is
being bought on conditional sales contract by Ed Grover. He signed a conditional sales contract in 2008. It's a 12-year payout, so he's probably within a year and a half, 2 years of completing it. I spoke with Ed, and he's a truck driver right now. He's on the road, throughout the entire day unless he's not scheduled to take a load. So I told him that next week I will give him a call and see if he knows what his schedule looks like so that we can meet with him.
Did you tell him what it's about?
I told him that, the city has a project that we need to talk to him about. I didn't go into a lot of specifics.
Okay.
But, yeah, and I years ago, I actually represented him on some matters back when I first started practice. So I've known Ed for a long, long time. But, you know, if we can get him on board, then I think that would go a long way towards
Getting two properties is a must. The third one is not a must, but it would be nice. It would definitely, I think, behoove that person, as far as their future property value, to be part of it.
So what, I talked to Todd Froliger for a lengthy period today on the phone, and what we talked about is, I told him that what I would like to do is to have a preliminary meeting with these three property owners, just to share with them that the city's looking at doing a project here, that in order for us to move forward, we're going to have to pass a resolution. Council will have to pass a resolution expressing interest in these properties, and I didn't want them to read it in the newspaper, and that's the first that they heard anything about it.
Yeah.
So I at least want to share with them that, look, this is a step that we're going to take. They're not committed, and explain to them the process. Once we get the appraisals done, then probably at that point, Todd, myself, whoever else you feel is appropriate to be there, would sit down with the property owners and go over in detail the project itself, and then what we could offer in the way of compensation. And, you know, at that point, hopefully we get positive responses. I think with the Lytles, I think they're very much interested. So I don't know that that's going to be a real problem. I think until we sit down and talk to Ed, that's one that we just need to explain. So.
Okay. All right. The waste treatment plant, Gary came in and shared with me that AECom, okay, all along, and Jim Gerard called me today, but I was kind of short with him because I was on my way out the door, I had my coat on, that, you know, they knew what all was going to have to happen to do this next phase, but they forgot to include something in the pricing that they had kind of quoted us, where we were thinking this was a $7 million phase, this last phase.
Now it's less.
Now it's 8. So it didn't sit real well with me. They forgot, they said it was, all along, it was in the plans that there's, what are the screens at the...
Screening at PSO 11 above the 10-year 1-hour storm.
Yeah, it was in the plans all along. They just forgot to include it when they calculated the estimate.
When they were treating it separate, they were trying to get the big picture for the tank, and then inadvertently left off the screening at 11.
In my short conversation with Jim Gerard, I said, you'll be here the 5th of February, right? And I said, you might want to wear a helmet or something, because I got a feeling that... I told Carrie, I said, there's been other engineering firms that we've worked with that have quoted us wrong. And I said, but this is $1 million. Holy crap. I mean, now, granted, we haven't done a rate study. We haven't went out to get a bond or anything like that yet. But nonetheless, when we think it's, you know, when we first started talking about this a few years ago, was a $6.5 million price tag. I understand it going up to 7 because of just the cost of goods. And
but I don't know, was that $6.5 million again just the tank, and they always treated it less separately?
I don't know. I don't know. So now, all of a sudden, to go from 7 to 8 is kind of a gouge. So I wanted to share that tonight. I guess a little good news, Kevin, as far as the contract with AECom, how much is their contract?
It's at 700-ish.
$700,000 contract is, and that's for everything, to get us through the entire phase?
No, that would just get us an open bid.
Design only, and that's not part of the AECom.
That includes construction contract or post-construction monitoring.
So their fees for the actual, once we go to the construction, whatever is going to be over and above the 8 million yet? Or is that included in that 8 million?
Yeah, well, that's just the project cost.
That's just the project cost. So if there is any good news, it's the fact that from Phase 3, our bond that we have about $900,000 left. And so as far as the contract with AECom, we could actually pay that out of the surplus that we have left,
If we need to.
if we need to. So,
Would they like to contribute to the ballpark?
we might have that conversation. Mhm.
It's like 10% of the real contract.
Mhm.
Like, they charge 10%.
Greg, I know you're thinking something over there.
Well, I asked him how much the project was gonna cost the actual tank, he said 1.2 to 1.5 million. Where's the rest of the money? But at the conversation we had, it kind of blows me away.
In the meeting, yeah, the round table back there, yeah.
Yeah, because you talked about all of the pumps and all of that underground stuff that you don't see that will be majority of the money. The tank itself is minimal.
And I love these engineers.
What will our cost if we end up with those 3 properties? Maybe it's shorter.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all cushioned somewhat, just like this one where we have money left over from Phase 3. But regardless,
Do we
so I wanted to share with you the latest cost that was shared with Carrie, and Carrie shared it with me. And then also, we were just talking over here about the homeowners over there. Tim has talked to Steve Lytle. They're on board. The second home, which is owned by Marshall Zimmerman, he is selling to a guy named Ed Grover on a contract. Tim has contacted Ed Grover to tell him that we would like to, that we have a project coming up and we need to talk to him. Do we need to ask him and even the next house sometime, even before we get to anything else about borings, doing sales?
Yeah, I talked to Todd about that, and I think Steve Lytle doesn't have a problem with that, so I think what we would like to do is, if the property owners are willing to allow us to do the Phase 1 environmental assessment, you take the risk of doing that and incurring that expense and then not ultimately buying the property, but you're going to have that risk anyway, whether you have them under contract or not. Because if there's an environmental issue, you're probably not going to buy the property then. So
Yeah, but it has to be done, so.
it has to be done, and from what Todd explained, the sooner you can get that started, the better. So I think one of the discussions that we would have with these property owners is to inform them that, this project is being looked at very carefully, that if council is inclined, there's going to be a resolution expressing interest in their properties. The reason for that is that then allows us to get 2 appraisals so that we can identify what we can offer to purchase the properties. And we would get back with them at that point. In the meantime, would they be willing to allow us to do the Phase 1 on those properties so that we can move that process along a little quicker. So you can do it either way. You can wait until you have it under contract and make the contract subject to that, or you can do the testing up front so that you know that it's not an issue when you enter the contract. So it's up to you guys how you want to handle it. I think from AECom's perspective, they would prefer to try to get that done sooner than later.
So, I mean, do we
Do we have an estimate on the board?
I couldn't tell you offhand. They, I think, have that calculated in the cost that they're talking about, but how much, I think that in the past, I'm trying to remember what we paid when we did the Phase 1 on the Schaefer building and some of the other properties. It seems like, it may be $1,500, somewhere around there. It's not a terribly expensive cost, I mean, and as far as that goes, we could check with, I think in the past we went through NERC, Matt Bondren. I don't know if they have funds that, maybe we should check with them to see if we can fund it through them and maybe take that out of the contract with AECom. Might save a little bit, it's not going to save a lot.
Jeremy, do you know
What's that?
if NERC can help us with Phase 1 environmental?
Yeah,
Yeah, they can? Okay.
they have in the past.
So should we, I know you're going to be out of pocket till late next week.
Right.
But should Don, since Don knows Ed, call him and just say, hey, I know you talked to Tim, but in the meantime, before you have this meeting, it would be okay if we did a Phase 1 environmental, if you see some people out in your yard doing some stuff, or do we want to wait until we have this conversation?
I think we wait until we have the
So it's
conversation.
not that big of a rush?
No,
Okay.
they're just saying that, they would rather not wait until we signed an agreement with them, which is a little further down the road.
Okay.
So, my thinking on this is that we get these meetings done before our next meeting, you adopt your resolution expressing interest in the properties at your next meeting. You could even go as far as lining up appraisers ahead of that in anticipation that that resolution is adopted so that they're ready to go. You can get that done fairly quickly, and then we can have a follow-up meeting with them, at that point to share with them what we're prepared to pay for the properties.
I think we have an extra week anyway in there.
To have a 3-week period, right? So the next meeting is February 5th. We should have enough time. And I guess, council doesn't make the decision. You could basically, at your meeting tonight, say that you're inclined to express interest, and then I can prepare the resolution for the next meeting, and you can adopt it at that point. And if the council says that, then at that point we could...
How do we talk about it at the council meeting?
Well,
making it a...
Yeah, is there any, I guess, if I don't hear any objection from council, I will have a resolution ready for those 3 properties. Okay?
Yep. Any questions on AECom?
It's just frustrating. We felt like we jerked around like Commonwealth engineers, so we didn't want to use them again.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was the contract with AECom signed by the Board of Works in a previous meeting at $700,000, or is this?
No, it's not. It's going to be presented
Yeah.
for the meeting in February.
They're going to come in at February 5th to talk to us about this contract.
What Todd indicated in the phone call today is that when discussions were had with, different times with different people, the consensus seemed to be to, rather than piecemeal this out, let's have a comprehensive contract. That's what he explained to me. So to do all of the design work and do the work leading up to opening of bids, it's my understanding that that's what this contract would cover. And it doesn't cover anything once you get to the point of construction. So in terms of supervision of the construction itself, that would be a separate contract at that point.
Well, we have an opportunity to review that beforehand, but I'd love to see...
The contract?
Itemized, how they come up with that.
He's supposed to get that to me, he said probably the middle of the week prior to our meeting, so if I get it, I can send it out to everybody.
Please.
But that's just going to be the engineering contract, it's not going to include the construction.
I know.
I understand, but that's $700,000 worth of drawings. We have a bid ordinance that we have to go by with stuff. We're going to let them walk in here with a $700,000 contract and not have another bid on it.
With regard to architects and engineers and surveys, and if you looked at the ordinance that I gave you, there's a statute that says that you can just go out on the open market, you don't have to go through it. Doesn't mean that you can't go through it. You can request proposals, you can bid it out, but the problem you're running into is the time.
We bid it.
Time and all of the history that they have all of their...
I understand that, but that's just giving them a free pass to say, this is what it is and here it is, the price.
I mean, I understand they have the history, but if someone else comes in front of us, another engineering firm that says that they can do it for $500,000, we just lost out on $200,000 because of history. And what we just paid them upfront fees to file this last paperwork.
$200,000.
I spoke with another engineering company about if we were to move on from this company, how would that work? And they said they would re-engineer everything that's been done up to this point to make sure that it was right before they would move forward.
Well, in all honesty, nothing has been engineered yet, I don't think.
I'm saying everything.
All the other phases.
Everything I've done, phase 1, 2, 3.
The first 3 phases.
They want to go
They
through.
would have
Just
to,
taking AECOM's word for it.
Right.
To do all the legwork.
Right.
Redo all
And that's what happened when AECOM came in. They didn't accept what Commonwealth did. They started over.
Kind of a good thing, honestly, right?
Right. Because we found out that there were a lot of things that Commonwealth had been focused on that were issues that, were not focusing on some real problems. And
The fact of the matter is, it's an agreed order. They know it.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to see what we're paying them for.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's-
when I get the contract, I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, any other comments on that? Thanks, Carrie. Just everyone be ready for AECOM February 5th. That could be a interesting presentation they make.
they're gonna make that in front of Board of Works and
Board of
council.
Works.
I mean, with
With
the
council
council.
present, yes.
Be present for
Yes.
that.
Yes. The other thing I wanted to talk about, or to kind of discuss, is I think everyone knows that Belmont High School, Adams County Economic Development Corp., and Keith Gerber from Hoosier Pattern entered into discussions with Vincennes about coming to Decatur and locating at Northwest Elementary. And it sounds like Brent Lehman has told me that it's pretty much a go. The only hitch right now is to figure out who owns Northwest Elementary in the future, that building. North Adams doesn't want to own it, and anywhere that Vincennes has other campuses, they don't own it. They lease it. So they're looking for an owner. And since we had expressed interest one other time, Brent came to me and wanted to know if we would be interested in Northwest Elementary. He said, keep in mind, they will pay fair market value for leasing whatever portion of the school they need, and he goes, and they are not going to need all of the school. He says, you can utilize that school then for whatever you might like. And I said, well, let me bring this up at the Board of Works meeting. I said, I'm not going to even comment right now, just kind of like to talk to all of you. My feeling is if we can get that building and all the land that goes with it, it's in good shape. Now, I asked Brent, I said, are you going to give it to us? And how's it work? And he says, well, that would be our attempt, would be to give it to you. He says, but however, going back to when that school belonged to the city, it was just that front strip that fronts Dayton Street in the gymnasium. Because it's been added on to many times since then, or a few times since then. He goes, so I don't know. He goes, that's just one of those legal things we'll have to get our attorneys involved in to figure it out. He says, but yes, this is he said if he had his way, it would be something that they would either give to us or sell to us for $1 or whatever. So I know that before we would want to make any firm decisions, we would want to know the condition of everything. How's the roof, how's the HVAC, how's everything at the facility. But as far as I know, I think it's in pretty darn good shape.
I realize it's down the road, but do we have an actual, how we would
Use for it? Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, would it make better sense for economic development to
Own it?
own it and be based out of there, and there would be a stream of revenue coming in from a lease to better support them?
It cost a lot to insure that? Would the lease cover the insurance? I don't know.
Insurance would probably be the cheapest of all the things that go with that. The heat.
Yeah. That's a that's a good idea.
It's worth exploring versus the Parks Department has some use for it office-wide.
Jeremy, you got any use for Northwest Elementary?
I know we've talked about a lot of different things, but possibly, it all depends on what your intent is with the long term.
I think, as much as the school, what I'd like to have is the property that is behind it. I think that if we ever do build an aquatics park or whatever, that would be a great location, because it's so close to US 27.
What the park board has talked about a few different times is with the service complex and all the different offices that are going into the service complex, the park and recreation are getting kind of squeezed for room. We looked long term, probably after many of us are far gone, is it would be nice, kind of in a dream, to have a little bit bigger facility for basically both boards to have activities, fitness center, different things, just in one facility instead of, different things at Riverside, different things at the high school, different activities, to where it's, more of a one facility, but, jokingly, like we said, it would be long down the road is what we were envisioning.
I know we've never had much luck partnering with the county on purchases or owning things, but would it be a good city-county venture?
I guess what we were looking at is like with having the gym, with having all the other rooms, with the fitness center, the different activities that could go on in one facility instead of trying to, shuffle every activity in different buildings, different properties, different everything. But it was kind of a dream. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago that we talked about it.
Well, I think we need to know how much space Vincent's going to take up this thing. Right? If they're going to take up half of it, maybe there's long-term use for us, but if there's no immediate how we're going to utilize that thing. Personal opinion, city, county, ownership, I think that the city would be 100% responsible for it.
I think you're right.
I mean, the other thing you could do if you want to spend a little money is have a fair market rental appraisal done, so you could determine, if you knew how much square footage they wanted, that would give you some idea of what kind of rental income you'd be looking at.
I guess I'm just brainstorming here, but I'm wondering if there's not an opportunity, back to the economic development thing, for like a NIC, Adams County, Innovation Center, because there's space there. Is there still a kitchen there? No.
I don't believe. Maybe a very small kitchenette as
It's
such.
still there, but they do not cook there.
Yeah.
They cook everything out there.
Yeah.
Transport it.
When I hear Keith Gerber and Vincent's and North Adams, I mean, that excites me. Like, no, we want no part of it. That's not the case at all. How it comes together, I don't know. Explore it.
Well, he asked me to call him tomorrow, and I can give him a call and just tell him, hey, it was a kind of a slap upside the head as far as what's everyone think. I can let him know I planted the seed with all of you, but that we would need to know a lot more information before we would want to comment one way or the other.
I think we want to come off in a positive light on that but I think we ought to also look, like he said, look into the deal with the county and the parks and
I think what you need to do, you need to gen enough income to take care of your maintenance when it comes to roofs. And any other maintenance you have on it, you want to be able to generate enough income within. So I think that's very important. Because the
And
price
to know how
price
much-
of building it is a great price, but you don't want something that's gonna drain you just to maintain it
Yep.
either.
Yep. And I can't imagine that Vincent's is gonna need a great amount of that school right at the beginning. Maybe long-term, but I can't see him needing that much at the
They were
beginning.
talking about 40 people per semester, and they would open up a satellite here. So that's not a lot of classroom space in the actual building, and they looked at some of the buildings on the south end. Is where I remember walking through there.
But like Tim said, you gotta find out what they're willing to pay as far as rental, and then find out if that, I guess, if they've got information on how much that building costs to maintain it, I'm sure they do.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking roof that's a flat roof. I'm thinking roof would really come into play. And the areas that you're not renting out, then you're looking at heat to maintain it and that type of thing, so.
And we've got, what, like 6 months to a year before they're gonna, when they planning on moving into the one campus? The high
It's
school.
beginning of next school year, I think.
August 14th.
Yeah.
Where's Work One located right now?
I don't know.
Still at Honda.
They are?
I think they've reduced to 1 day a week.
Mm.
I'm just thinking that, I mean, that's a,
Right. A viable
they
option.
would, I think they would prefer that location because it's in town. Yeah.
Right.
But they're only there 1 day a week?
Well, but that's just because it will, I think if they were there and they hadn't, and Benson's was there, I think you're generating some, that's another renter,
Yeah.
which has got sustainability.
Right. I think it'd be smart to find out more information on the actual physical portion of the building and the monthlies
Mhm.
before we make the
The maintenance
decision.
costs.
Why don't you just, when you make the phone call to, is it Keith?
No, it's Brent Lehman.
Brent Lehman, just ask him for some more facts. We'd just like to get some more information on it before we make a good decision, but we're interested in moving forward.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't want to take a lemon and try to make lemonade, but when I walked through there, they said that the heating and cooling system was all updated and it's got all variable frequency drives in it. It's not like old stuff. It's clean in the mechanical room, and I think they've talked about the roof. It's not that old. They've done some work on that roof too. And
If I remember right, it was 2 or 3 years ago that they put a new roof on that.
That's what I'm
I
thinking.
remember watching.
Less than 5.
I'll get all that information.
That'd be great.
Just wanted to plant the seed tonight. So,
I said, Work One is at the service complex.
They are, aren't they?
Because they moved on June 6th of 2018 and are only open on Wednesdays.
yeah, what Brent said in his email, he says, I'd like to have an in-depth conversation about the Northwest property sometime this week. The hope would be to get all the questions on the table so we can begin to find answers, which I think that's what we're doing here. I could make time available on a call, and he says when, so. Questions. There's our questions, I guess. Okay. It was that and the AECom that I wanted you guys up here for, so that's all I have. Phyllis, do you have anything for Board of Works?
No.
Tim?
Were you going to talk about that ordinance a little bit?
Yeah, let's do. As a matter of fact, I got that. Tim, do you want to talk about the purchasing ordinance a little bit before we go into the council meeting?
Yeah. Okay, when we, at our last meeting, it sounded like it was relatively simple. We were just going to add a column, but when I started looking at all the statutes that are involved, whoever put that together over in Bluffton kind of did a blending of things, and we kind of followed that. But when you look at the statute, there are certain things that need to be done a little bit differently. For example, when you get to the public works column, you know, you have to have, if you're going to use the quotes, the sealed quotes, you have to mail out a request for quotes to at least 3 companies or businesses that do that type of work. That has to be done at least 7 days prior to the opening of quotes, and you have to wait and open those at a public meeting, and they have to be read at that point. So even on small public work projects, you still have to follow that procedure. In the past, we had it set up that it was a less less formal type of quoting process, and there's nothing in the statute that really allows that. So I changed that. With regard to the supply, and if you notice, in the past, you just had all these different categories, and then it went down by dollar amounts, but you have to go to the individual statutes. So there's statutes that cover supplies, and supplies by definition includes materials and equipment. So when you see a supplies contract, it encompasses equipment. So under 522A2, you basically can, under 50,000, you can pretty much set how you want to do it. And so I followed what you had in place, where the first level, there was no quotes. You could get on the phone and get a figure from somebody and go with it. The department head could do that. If it's up to 10,000, then the department head could still make that decision, but they need to get 2 written quotes. Again, it doesn't have to be sealed, so they could contact 2 vendors and say, hey, fax me or email me a quote on this, and that's sufficient. Now, the way it gets, and that would be all the way up to 50,000. Then, when you get up to 50 to 149,000, now you're in a different section of that chapter, and it requires sealed quotes.
Here's a copy of this.
It's the
Want
same.
one now?
It's the same process as public work projects, where you're using written quotes instead of bids. They're sealed, written quotes based on plans and specifications, and those are read at a public meeting. You have to mail it out. You don't have to advertise that, but you have to mail it at least 7 days in advance to get at least 3 quotes. Okay? You have to solicit it. If you only get 2 respond, you're still okay, as long as you solicited at least 3 people to provide it. Then when you get to 150,000 or above, then you have to do it by sealed bids. Okay?
And then bid and performance
And you
bonds.
do the bid, and then that's when you would require the bid and performance bonds.
I'm sorry. Between 50 and 150 on supplies and materials,
Yeah.
you have to request 3 sealed bids. You don't necessarily have to get them.
Correct.
Request.
Yeah. If you look at the statute, it says that you have to send out request to at least 3 contractors who perform that type of work or provide those types of supplies.
Gotcha.
And then they have a week to submit a response, a written sealed quote, that then would be, and you have to give them a deadline just like you do a sealed bid. They have to have it submitted by a certain time, and then it would be open and read at a public meeting. Okay?
Yep.
So the first couple I left with the department head approval up to 10,000, and then from 10,000 on it becomes board approval. With regard to services, that statute says that basically,
Statute all the way through.
you can do it however you want on services. So I tried to use kind of the same format on the first 2 levels, where you didn't have to have quotes if it's under 2,500. If it's up to 10,000, you get at least 2 quotes, and then from 10,000 on, I said, and the statute says this, that the Board of Works would determine whatever method you want to use. So if you wanted to just get written quotes and not do it in a sealed quote fashion, you could. If you want to do sealed quotes, you could. If you wanted to bid it, you could. And that's all the way down from 10,000 on. Okay? So it's however the Board of Works would determine the best way to do that. With regard to public work projects, you'll notice that there's a slight variation between when you get to written quotes versus sealed quotes. The statute has two sections, and in it you're given a choice. You can say either you're going to use the sealed quote process, or you can just request written quotes as long as it's to 3 people, and then they can send it by email, fax, whatever. So in the first 3 levels, I used the less restrictive or less formal way of doing it. Again, department head approval would be the one involved in the first 2 levels. It would be Board of Works between 10 and 50. And then when you get to 50 to 149, we go to the second option that you have short of a bid, a sealed bid, and that would be using the sealed quotes. And again, it's the same process. You have to advertise it and request from at least 3, and that's under a different subsection of the statute. And then when you get to 150 or more, then you have to do it by sealed bids. You'll notice that certificate of insurance is required for all public work projects as well as routine maintenance and repair projects, and with regard to the professional services. However, what we did is I talked to Jeremy, I talked to Star Insurance about this just to get an idea, because sometimes when you have small projects, our prior ordinance required a $5 million aggregate policy. Well, that's pretty prohibitive when you're talking about a $10,000 project. Okay? So what we did, and after talking with Jeremy and after talking with Star, if you go back to the second page, we reduced the insurance limits so that it would be $500,000 per incident, $1 million aggregate for projects, I think, that are under 50,000. Okay? Anything over 50,000 would then carry $1 million per incident, $2 million aggregate. Because keep in mind that we would be named as additional insureds under those policies for liability purposes, but we would still have our own insurance in addition if if there was a huge loss. So they're up front and they're first in line in terms of paying claims, and then we may have something on the back end. If you wanted to go to a higher aggregate, we can. But the more you require, the higher the cost to the contractor, and the potential that you may lose out on bidders or quoters because for them it's too expensive or they just don't carry that kind of coverage.
And higher cost to the city.
Higher cost to the city. So we tried to reduce that to make it more effective and competitive, but still protect the city. So then when you get to routine maintenance and repairs, again, it's different statutes. So you look at those, and I tried to follow what the statute says and tried to keep it consistent with what we had previously in terms of department head approval, whether you're doing quotes or sealed quotes or whether you're going to do bids. And then with regard to professional service contracts, that's another statute. And that's the one that says, you don't have to do quotes or bids. You can go out on the open market. That kind of goes to what Tyler raised earlier, is that, we're handing AECOM a $700,000 contract without going out on the market and either getting quotes or bids from other parties, but we have the right to do that. Okay? So the question is, do you want to do that or not? If you note, the very last item on the second page, I put in the city reserves the right to competitively bid or request proposals for any purchase or contract over $100,000. Okay, so in the case of AECOM, if you were starting from scratch, a lot of times what you do is you request proposals, and then you kind of look at their qualifications, and then you negotiate with them in terms of the price. Or you could go out and you could literally bid it. You could say, this is the project, this is the type of services that you're going to need to provide us, and have sealed bids, and you award it based on that. in the case of AECom and the projects that we're dealing with the sewer, it's more complicated than starting from scratch because we're into this pretty far along. And they have a wealth of knowledge that somebody coming in from the outside is going to spend a lot of time catching up to a point where they can then give us an estimate on what their cost would be to go forward with what we're talking about in the way of this project. That's your call, whether you want to require that or not, or whether you want to take the chance that that would unduly delay the project and get us into a bind in terms of compliance with the agreed order. That's the dilemma that you face. Okay? So, if you look at, if you go back to the second page, then I also, another statute, but this is the one that lays out kind of exigent circumstances or special circumstances that would allow you to deviate and not have to go through any of these procedures and just go out on the open market. So there's about 10 or 11 different situations that would allow you to immediately go out and just get a price without going through any kind of quotes or bids. Okay? So I spelled that out. And then, some of the language that is kept in there as far as, I changed the quotes because it could be that all quotes will be read or opened and read, because it depends on whether you're doing the less formal quotes or the more formal quotes. And in terms of the bid bond and the performance bond, I didn't change that language. Bid bond, you can't have a higher bid bond than 10%. You can have less. So if you wanted to reduce the cost, you could consider a lesser bid bond. Some communities do as little as 5%. So that's up to you guys whether you want to reduce that or not. I just need to know. Then with regard, like I said...
What do you think on that? Does that prohibit some people from bidding?
Sometimes, because when you get in the city of Fort Wayne and Allen County, a lot of times they only ask for like the 5%. Because when we did the water main replacement on Master Drive, it was in the first round, one of the bids were rejected. That was one of the things, the reason why it's, our ordinance said 10%. Everyone else was 5%. And they just assumed that was 5%.
I remember that.
The bidders in Fort Wayne and Allen County, that's just what they went off of. So that is pretty common at 5%, but I think, depending on the project and the amount, you still ought to reserve the right to go up to the 10%.
And that's how it says here, Tim, is we can, on each particular...
The bid bond says it's going to be 10%.
Okay.
So you're saying we could reduce...
If you want to reduce that to a lesser percentage, I can change that.
It does drive your cost up.
Yeah, it's just a matter of competitive.
So if you want that 5%, lower it. You
I would
can?
lower it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're asking them for insurance, you're also getting a, what else are you getting in there?
Well, there's...
Performance bond.
Yeah, performance bond.
So, I mean, we can drop it on the bid bond?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
But if we're going to, we need to do it.
You can drop it, the bid bond can't
what
be
you're
greater
recommending,
than 10%. It can be up to 10%. Historically, we've always used 10%, but it doesn't have to be. You can have a lesser percentage if you choose.
What's the advantage of having 10?
It's just a greater
The guy who sells the
protection.
bonds makes another commission?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they walked away and didn't fulfill the bid, then you can move forward on the bid bond.
Money.
Right,
Up to 10% of whatever the actual
Right,
bid was.
exactly.
right.
So it doesn't really matter. I mean, you got a performance bond on a lot of these things too,
Right.
which is the actual performance of the duty.
But the bid bond covers requiring them to sign the contract if their bid is accepted, okay? So if for some reason they suddenly decide, hey, I just picked up a job over here that's worth a heck of a lot more in my pocket, so heck with you guys, I'm
Because
not...
they turned it in, basically we're going to hang it for 10%.
Exactly. So that's the advantage. It's a greater protection to you if a contractor walks away from the bid. So if you want to use 5%, we can
We're
use
still
5%.
protected for 5%, and it makes it more competitive,
Yes.
Right.
then it saves us
Hopefully
money.
we'd have more local, small contract.
Yeah, I think you get
Smaller contract.
smaller companies possibly bidding because the upfront cost of them to bid would be less.
Agreed.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Make a motion that you drop that from
Well,
10%.
actually, we're going to address this again at the council meeting.
It's a council ordinance, so I think that at the
We're getting the
council,
long version now, he's going to give us the short version.
I'm not going to go
Okay,
through all
you
this.
give us Cliff Notes?
Yeah. But-
So the revisions we want to change to the contract are to the ordinance?
Yeah, the ordinance itself.
This is part of
So,
the
and it's
ordinance.
a city ordinance.
Is the recommendations that you have made today,
Yeah.
and one of the recommendations is to change those numbers along with
Yep.
what you said
On the
on
bid bond.
page 2,
Yep.
this part,
It's page 2.
and then
of
on the bid
exhibit.
bond, reduce that from 10 to 5.
So
Bid
where,
bond.
Bid bond.
where does the wall fit in this category now?
Uh, It could be, it's either going to be public works or repairs and maintenance. I would say it's probably public works.
So either way, we're looking at if we assume it's going to be over 50,
You're looking at requesting at least 3 sealed quotes.
So there won't be a bid bond
No bonds.
or any of that, we'll just have to get a certificate of insurance.
Right.
so we talk about the wall a little bit.
Yeah. We can talk about the wall,
I
yes.
have a couple questions on the ordinance first, Tim.
Which still takes waterworks approval. 3 seal quotes. Like the wall.
Yeah, right here. Yep. I'm sorry.
So if you change this 10% from now on, like I'm going to advertise for street material, equipment, and labor, and it requires 10% bond. Am I advertising that way, or do I wait till this gets passed and then advertise that?
When is that going to be done?
I was going to do it for the February 5th, I think, meeting. I'll have to look at my notes.
Well, if
If this passes tonight.
Council approves it, you can reduce it.
if Board of Works says that they want it 5% and council agrees with it, then you could advertise 5%, even though we haven't adopted this. There's nothing that says in our a purchasing ordinance as it is right now says 10%.
And then my other question is, I've never returned the bid bond, but it says in here I have to. And I never have, I've only returned checks. So is that a new requirement?
If they're not a successful bidder,
I've never returned
you
them.
haven't.
And nobody's ever asked?
Yeah, well, technically they're supposed to have them return. So.
So, I mean, we've never had it in our old ordinance. Do we, I mean, is that
That's
something we
just-
have to have in there, or can we remove it?
That's part of the statute, but it's not if
It
nobody's
says that
ever raised
bond
the issue.
will be returned immediately if the bid is not accepted.
Right. If they're not accepted, then,
And I've only returned if they put a check in there. I've never returned the bond.
Can you scratch that, or you gotta follow the rules? I would be nicer if you would just say we will alert them.
yeah, I mean, if they want it back, I guess we just notify them they were unsuccessful. If they want their bond returned, we'll return it. I think what they do at that point is they probably notify their bonding company that they weren't successful, and then that releases the bonding company from any liability under the bond.
For the record, why don't we, Board of Works, make the recommendation to take the council to change under the bid bond percentage
With the changes that Tim has
from 10%
shared
to
with us.
5%.
10% to 5% on the bid bond, and then also the other statutory changes that you made in this.
Oh, that's already there. Yeah. That will be part of the...
Yes. And and the way I prepared this ordinance, if you go back and you look at our purchasing ordinance, we adopted ordinance 2008-5, then we amended it in 2008-9, and then we amended it again in 2013-14. So rather than try to cobble this all together, I just repealed, by this, you're repealing all of those and you're restating it in this. So this is now going to be it. Okay?
Will the
the suit.
And
Performance bonds, does that still need to be at 10% though?
it's 100% for the performance.
Okay.
We're moving from 10 to 5, performance is the performance of the contract.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I made a motion, and I think he
Seconded it, to make that recommendation to council.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, one other thing that I'll point out, because Craig asked about this, but the purchasing agencies, the Board of Works is a purchasing agency for all city departments other than the Parks Department, and I went back, the 2008-9 amendment addressed that issue. So there's a reason for that, and I think it has to do with the fact that the Parks Department has a separate budget. It's not funded through the general budget, so they need to be the purchasing agency for the Parks Department.
If you read back through the Indiana Park Law, the park board is responsible for the budget.
Right.
The responsibility and basically the duties of council board is to approve the budget. And
They take over fiduciary responsibility. So we need to make an exclusion for the Parks Department?
It's already in here.
It's in the existing ordinance, and I left it in this one,
Okay,
so.
so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just wanted to call that to your attention.
I read it earlier, thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. You have anything else, Tim? Phyllis, you have anything else? Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the wall.
We kind of been going down this idea of a
Jeremy,
brick wall.
heads up.
So there was a conversation last time about what if some individual wanted to purchase adjoining building and tear it down, and then they'd have to buy the wall as well. So I was talking to a local business owner that has expressed that is their desire to buy that and tear it down. And so I kind of warned, I said, well, one, here's the issue. If we proceed with the wall, you're going to have to buy the wall. Two, I think you need to investigate how hard and how expensive it would be to tear that building down. But my question would be, if we knew that somebody was very interested and that was their intent, are we going to proceed with the wall? Question. Two, it's still our wall that we would have to, assuming, I don't know how this would actually happen because of how the way it's built, but if that owner took down the building, there'd still be a wall, in theory, that would need to come down. So, as opposed to putting money towards building a wall, if somebody wanted to take that building down, would we be open to contributing to the demolition with monies that we had appropriated to build a wall? Could we put that towards the project to tear it down?
Are you familiar with this same business person's next venture?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the building for sale?
No.
No.
Did Kurt look into if he can use some of his funds to build that wall? Just
That's
curious.
we were going to use that, right?
Same
The building fund?
Okay. So that was, we could do that?
You can't use the unsafe building fund, but in his budget, he's got funds that could be used.
Okay.
I guess, let me just simplify this question. If somebody wanted to tear that building down, since we have a portion of it, we have a wall, would we contribute unsafe building money to assist in getting rid of all of that? Is that our...
It's gonna cost way more than I got.
Oh, I didn't say that we were covering all of it. I'd say that we would
Just the wall.
put money that we were going to use towards building it to assist, yeah, to tear the wall down. There's no way we're... Huh?
Not the building.
Did they take the pre-stressed building down beside the wall? The wall's gonna fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
It's
wall's
not going to stand by itself.
Yeah, it won't.
Wall's gonna go down with them doing the building.
I think he's just trying to say that,
Would we help?
right, we're not,
It's
we
$100,000.
spend,
Was this a question from this person?
Yeah, it doesn't matter who it was, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
what about the corner lot? We still own the corner lot.
Well, I can buy the lot.
You can do that now. And a wall, save the building.
Is it $100,000 to tear down that building?
That's a pretty gas building.
That's,
You're not gonna
that's
get
far
it
more
with
than
the
$100,000, you're probably talking $350.
To tear it down?
Roughly.
Yeah.
All right, so here's, I think, let's not just talk around it anymore. So Corey, I mean, obviously has
we
interest in
know.
it, right? So, but what I told him is I said, you need to come, and I think he doesn't have in his mind how expensive it would be to tear it down. So I've asked him, I said, go talk to the guys, and before you go down this path, he needs to figure out how expensive that would be.
He's thinking it's gonna cost 100, and the city
What,
contributes 50.
down probably 350 probably, yeah, for gas.
Yeah, you're, yeah, in the 250, 300 range. You'd have to hammer it apart. You won't just, you can't just go up there and grab it like a brick building and not have it on the ground and do it.
Yeah.
You go in there with hammers and bring it down.
All right, I think that's something he needs to hear, because until he realizes that that's not even an option, I don't know that we can proceed in good faith with building a wall that we're going to have to turn around and sell to somebody to tear down again.
I think in his mind, again, he thinks it would cost $100,000 to get rid of that building. Why don't the city just give you 50 grand instead of
Right.
build
right,
a wall?
Right.
That's how he's gonna figure it.
But it's not 100,000.
That's what I need him to understand.
How much does it cost to tear
Well, first of
down?
all, how does he plan on getting this building? It's not for sale.
I understand.
He thinks they're going to go defunct.
That's not the issue. Okay. The issue is if he did control it. So
This is a bunch of what-ifs, and I always told my children not to worry about the what-ifs in life. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a big what-if.
I understand, but I think that given a lot of conversations that have been going on,
I don't know about any of them, so.
I'd say the best answer is the wall's not going up till the end of winter here, so if you want to roll on it, you better go before. And if he comes with a purchase agreement that says, I'm going to buy this building, and hey, look, you guys got to put in $50,000 for a wall, then we can have the discussion. But until he has something on paper, there's really no discussion to be had. But I'd listen to it. I'd listen to it if he wants to. If he has a contract,
Pursue it further.
yeah, if he has a contract that says he's going to purchase this building and we don't have to put up a wall, and I'd listen to the contract.
and I understand. I'm just saying, does this change our timeline as far as going out and getting bids? I mean,
No, because we're not gonna quote this project with winter protection added in on it.
So we're looking at starting.
Now you're getting to the cold. You're getting into January, weather's changed, it's not 50 degrees anymore. It's gonna be probably March before you're ready to really do a whole lot. In February, first part of March, before you would actually go out and solicit the quotes and,
Well, I can talk with Corey and call Don in to let Don try to explain that to him, if that would help.
I think that needs to happen.
What is it? So I learned tonight that he bought Leland Smith.
He's
Starter
buying
Insurance
it.
Building.
He's buying it. He hasn't bought it yet.
What's it cost? What's the construction of that building if it were to get torn down? Is it the same situation? It's a very expensive building to get rid of.
Matt, if you look several years back, they approached the city about that property. And that was one of the drawbacks to purchasing that, was the expense of tearing that building
So
down.
it's another 200,000 to get rid of, kind
I don't know
of
if we
thing.
can quite that on that, but I don't think it'd probably be too far off.
Pretty good sized crane to pack them out. My answer to you, Cam, would be, I think we better delay this thing for a little bit, just kind of wait, see what happens before we
You
build
don't
it
think
out.
that's very much.
What?
Yeah,
Put
like
the wall
your,
up in February or March.
Right, I know, but I just think we just kind of put it on hold for a while and see how.
well, Jeremy said it's gonna be on hold till March. By that time, we need to find out from Corey if he's going forward with it or whatever.
Or just how much of the downtown do you plan to own?
Exactly.
I would definitely like to see it done.
What's that?
He's not going to do anything. I would definitely
You mean
like to see
option?
it done before.
Mark Kingdom and
Right.
Are you, okay, Jeremy, are you talking about still going ahead and getting
So you think Mark sold to me?
bids on it
Undervalued, the
and just
underappraised
holding
value
off,
and
or are you saying not do anything until?
Hold on.
Okay.
Just hold off and see what Corey's
He didn't,
intentions are.
he didn't ask to buy it. Mark just didn't want to deal with the parking lot issues anymore. Mark got rid of his problem.
Okay.
Sorry. No, I'm glad you
I would,
brought it up.
I would tell your person that we're gonna bid this out in March, so if you wanna,
We're gonna be moving at this.
if you wanna make a deal, make it happen before then. And then come to us with the deal. I think that'd be the nicest thing to say.
I just gave him the March holiday. That way we know how that thing gets him over the hump.
Yeah, if you can make it work.
Parking problem. What he's saying, he wants to sell it to Corey because of the parking problem.
All right. Well, Corey
Frank,
has
that's all we got?
Plans too. He wants to get that Eagle walk once it's defunct and put in a second screen.
We can't do that without parking. More parking.
Lease the spaces and then cold cross street, you can't park it.
You got anything else over here, guys?
Both talking.
Motion?
Motion to
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take 10 minutes.